Well, you mentioned how realistic it is, and is there a line between kind of realistic enough and misleadingly real? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because you could get into a situation, and I could see it happening pretty quick, where that avatar turns into a nurse practitioner who's doing intake.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the scary thing is that in some of these conferences and when we've been sharing this with various clients and stuff, a lot of the use cases that are being explored is, whether an AI avatar could replace a doctor or a nurse in consultations. And we've been very clear to say, like, that is not at all what we are suggesting. We're trying to understand doctor-patient consultations and using these in controlled simulations. I think if our experimentation has shown anything, it's that they're really not reliable enough to be trust. They're barely able to be relied upon in the context in which we are using them. And I definitely wouldn't trust going to one in substitution for an actual healthcare
No,
professional.
and you can't do it in just writing marketing content. But
Yeah.
the what I'm wondering though is like psychologically with with whoever the human is it can you be too real? Like can your avatar be too real to be like I don't know. Like I don't know. I feel like there might be a different confidence level I had with something that looked overly real versus something that I know is not stealing my soul or anything like that.
Yeah. And they do Yeah. talk about like the uncanny valley, don't they? Where like people um, are more trusting of things that either look like strikingly realistic or like extremely cartoonish. And it's the kind of in between bits that where people are just like, whoa, there's a little something that's off in this. And I think we are considering that when we think about how we take this forward, as well as how much do we really need the visual effects of the avatar in order to effectively simulate these consultations or use this technology to look at interactions. Because at what point is it, yeah, I don't know, too realistic or distractingly unrealistic? Does the avatar add value, or is it distracting for
Yeah.
folks?
Now you guys built this as a team, Rory and Katie. You were kind of the leads of this team. You had a few others, Nicole and John and Christy. Tell us about kind of how the team together and why was it important to kind of work in a team versus kind of more of the corporate world of handoffs and give it to marketing, give it to operations, and why was it important to have kind of this kind of looks like a cross-functional team?
Yeah, so our innovation team at HW, yeah, we always form teams for self-funded studies. And I think it's partially this kind of stress testing of things. You need a lot of different perspectives. I remember during the like ideation around kind of which conditions we were going to use for the pilots for patients, that Kirsty and John had real like thoughts on. Oh, we've used this kind of technology in this situation. They might be really good for this. This is a type of cancer that works really well for this. So I think like all of those perspectives and all of those ideas are really beneficial. We also have a multi-geography team, so it enabled like people to actually just frankly test the avatar platform on multiple different computers from multiple different locations to trial things. I think ultimately it meant that we had a lot of different perspectives that went into the development, that meant the actual end product was a lot more robust, because it had been kind of considered and stress tested from multiple perspectives. I don't know, Rory, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, it felt very like multidisciplinary. I mean, like my focus these days is very technologically based, and then Katie has the behavioral science angle amongst many others. We had Kirsty, who was like really really helpful for having like the patient angle. So she leads up our patient panorama team. So she was part of her approach with it was to make sure that what we're putting in front of patients with these doctor avatars was going to feel safe. And then John with innovation and Nicole was like super helpful in many different ways. So like we uh we brought it all together through like multiple different lenses, I think, which just meant that what we ended up with was much stronger than if it would just produce like a tech product without having all these different angles.